other things that are just silly. So Scarlett Johansson, the actress, she has now come out and she says that monogamy is not a natural thing. She did an interview with Playboy in which she talked about how monogamy is not natural. She said, with every gain, there's a loss, right? So that's a loss. You have to choose a path. I think the idea of marriage is very romantic. It's a beautiful idea. The practice of it can be a very beautiful thing. I don't think it's natural to be a monogamous person. I might be skewered for that, but I think it's work. It's a lot of work. Okay, that's true. So, you know, yeah, I mean, okay. Like, I don't know why this is some sort of revelation. Monogamous is not a natural thing. Monogamy is not a natural thing. First of all, it is more natural for men to be polygamous than for women to be polygamous. I mean, just biologically speaking, and that is because evolutionarily, it is, as they say in The King and I, man must be like honeybee, gathering all he can, right? I mean, evolutionarily speaking, the drive of men is to have sex with as many women as possible and therefore to propagate the species. The drive of women is to pick the best man possible in order to propagate the species, because if you have sex with some doofus, then your kids are also going to be doofi. That's just the way that it works in most of the animal kingdom. It also works that way in primates, and it works that way for human beings as well. But this idea that monogamy is not natural, and therefore what? Therefore what? Therefore marriage is not natural? Okay, so it's not natural. Guess what? Lots of things that are natural, as we just saw, are not necessarily things that are phenomenal and we should brag about. Like, natural is natural, but natural does not mean good. Natural is just what it is. And so this idea that monogamy is not natural, therefore monogamy is something bad, lots of things are not natural. Civilization's not natural. Clothing's not natural. The cameras are not natural. Houses are not natural. If we got rid of all of those things, if we got rid of agriculture, which is also not natural, if we got rid of all those things, then we could go back to living in forests and sleeping with everybody and dying at 23. I think that doesn't seem pleasant. So I think what we should stick with the institutions of civilization is sort of the final case that I am making here. Okay.
I do have to tell you about this insane piece from Everyday Feminism, just because it is hilarious. Okay, so this piece from Everyday Feminism discusses what intersectional feminists are looking for in a date. It is not a wonder that they are miserable people, intersectional feminists, because these are questions. They're 10 questions you are supposed to ask your date if you're an intersectional feminist. The following list of questions writes, who wrote this? Lara Witt. I'm not going to assume his, her, gender. I'm not going to assume gender because we're not allowed to do that at Everyday Feminism, the greatest site on the internet. But here is what Lara writes. The following list of questions is applicable to all relationships, certainly not just cisgender heterosexual ones. 1. Do you believe that Black Lives Matter? Well, there's a hell of an opener. You sit down for a date, and before you even start talking, the woman says to you, do you believe that Black Lives Matter? Like, how are you supposed to answer that? What happens if you say no? I mean, like, what? First of all, like, does anyone in the United States say no to that question? Of course everyone believes Black Lives Matter. The question is whether you think the movement is actually worthwhile or whether it is a vast misinterpretation of variable data on police activity. But never mind all that. It's just, then, what are your thoughts on gender and sexual orientation? I love this. The gender binary is a tiny box. I wish it didn't exist, but it does. I wouldn't want to be with anyone who's queer-phobic. Is that that's like your opener? That's another one of your opening questions? Is like you're a straight woman and you're dating a straight guy and your first question is, would you have sex with a dude? Or are you queer-phobic? Like, do you believe that I'm a woman? Okay. How do you work to dismantle sexism and misogyny in your life? What are you talking about to me? I'm just a plumber. Like, what? Says, I've met cisgender, heteronormative, cishet men who hate women. They say they love women, but that love is conditional on not having their toxic masculinity questions or threatened in any way. And they love us as a monolith. They love what women have to offer, whether it's sex, food, love, care, emotional labor. They love us for what we can do for them, not because of who we are for ourselves. Well, I feel like this is sort of a weird arbitrary boundary that you're drawing here. It seems to me that what you are is very much related to what you do. So that's sort of a weird take on things. What are your thoughts on sex work? Like that, this is one of my favorites. What are your thoughts on sex work? Really, the intersectional feminists want you to ask your date what your thoughts are on prostitution. Hint to the ladies. If you say to a man, what are your thoughts on prostitution? The guy's like, love it, all for it. You shouldn't date him. It's going to go badly. But apparently this is a question to ask when you're dating because being pro-sex worker is a necessary pillar for dismantling the patriarchy. There's nothing that dismantles the patriarchy like making it more available for scummy men to have sex for money. Nothing dismantles the patriarchy just like that, which is why when you watch old Westerns, everyone goes to the whorehouse because they're all trying to dismantle the patriarchy. It's a thing. Are you a supporter of the BDS movement? Perfectly. I love this. I love this. It's just great that on your first date, you should ask whether you hate Jews and want to divest from Israel. What is your understanding of settler colonialism and indigenous rights? Wow. Do you think capitalism is exploitative? First of all, I would say yes to that question just so that I could avoid actually having to pay for dinner. I would say capitalism is exploitative, so let's break the check. Can any human be illegal? Do you support Muslim Americans and non-Muslim people from Islamic countries? And does your allyship include disabled folks? If a woman asks you any of these questions, run as fast as you possibly can because that's horrifying. That'll be the worst marriage ever. But I guess marriage is shed anyway, so.
So the first...
Attend Emory University in the fall. And in our English class, we were shown an extremely feminist video displaying the Fox News as one of the main news sources that displays, I guess, anti-feminist views.
Right, because all the women are attractive.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much. So what are your thoughts on, I guess, feminism in general and everything like that?
Well, I mean, feminism, the original point of feminism was a good point, which was a lot of men acted like pigs, right? I mean, that's true. The problem is the solution of feminism was, okay, let's have women act like pigs also, as opposed to let's hold men to a higher standard, which is really what should have happened. They destroyed the very institutions that benefit women the most. You know who's benefited from feminism the most is men. Men have benefited enormously. We have to work less. You know, listen, if I can my wife is in medical school at UCLA, I promise you, I'm going to take a sabbatical the minute she starts working. You know, feminism, women in the workplace is a wonderful thing. My mom was a working woman. My dad was actually home with kids. Feminism was very good about getting women into the workplace. What feminism was very bad about was the idea you have to destroy all traditional values in order to get women into the workplace. That's a lie. It's not true at all. The greatest institution in the history of mankind for women is monogamous marriage. It is the greatest institution in the history of mankind. Before that, women were they were members of harems, and they were victims of sexism on a routine basis. Marriage, anybody who's married, you guys aren't married yet, marriage is about equality. That's what a marriage is about. It's not about, the feminists have this idea of marriage that it's a patriarchal institution in which the man bosses the wife around. If that's the case, my wife certainly hasn't heard about it. So, you know, feminism has made a lot of mistakes, among them the idea that of separating marriage from sexuality, the idea that women should act exactly like men, that men and women are exactly the same. That's unnecessary. Men and women can have equal rights without being exactly the same. But the Sex and the City version of femininity is really quite repulsive and has led many young women to damage their lives because they buy into the idea that they can have sex with as many people as you know, promiscuous men would. And it will have no impact on them. Men and women are very different. They treat sex very differently. I mean, for men, there's only one question. Well, there are two questions: when and where, right? And women women generally like to ask the question who. Well, Sex in the City says that women should not even bother asking the question who. They should just treat it like men treat it, and that's devastating because men and women are not built the same. They don't treat sex the same. They don't treat relationships the same. Women civilize men. That's what women do. It's one of the things women do. And men are supposed to provide for women. That doesn't mean that women can't provide also. They should provide also. It's great. I've insisted to my wife. I promise you, right now she's studying for boards, and every other day I'm hearing about how she wants to quit med school. And I tell her, you know, God forbid something should happen to me. I want to make sure that you can provide for yourself. I think it's very important that women get an education and you know, be able to are independent. I think women's independence is a phenomenal thing. That was the good news about feminism. The bad news about feminism is that they felt they had to destroy the superstructure on which all of Western civilization is built in order to get women into the workplace.
Last question.
So the first thing that I hate today is this insane piece by some crazy person named Jodi Allard. She's apparently a feminist blogger. First of all feminist bloggers are, I don't mean to generalize, but they're all crazy. So she actually has a piece today called, the title of it is, "I'm done pretending men are safe, even my sons." Really. And the entire thing is about how her sons are potential rapists. She says, "I have 2 sons. They're strong and compassionate, the kind of boys other parents are glad to meet when their daughters bring them home for dinner. They are good boys in the ways good boys are, but they are not safe boys. I'm starting to believe there's no such thing." She is talking about her own children being potential rapists because of rape culture. She said, "I wrote an essay in the Washington Post last year during the height of the Brock Turner case about my sons and rape culture. I didn't think it would be controversial when I wrote it. I was sure most parents grappled with raising sons in the midst of rape culture." Well, no, actually. It turns out that the vast majority of us who grow up as boys in households that have good parents we're not part of a rape culture because we are taught at a very early age that you're not supposed to rape people, right? That rape is a bad thing. I thought this was a pretty clear rule of Western civilization for the past 1,000 years or so, because I didn't think it would be controversial when I wrote it. The struggle I wrote about was universal, I thought, but I was wrong. My essay went semi-viral, and for the first time, my sons encountered my words about them on their friends' phones, their teachers' computers, and even overheard them discussed by strangers on a crowded metro bus. Right, because when you say your sons are potential rapists, that might have some bad ramifications. They're your kids, you stupid idiot. And then she says it was one thing to agree to be written about in relative obscurity, and quite another to have my words intrude on their